Today we're looking into a story that, well, even after all these years, it still really resonates, doesn't it? The tragic death of Princess Diana. We've gathered quite a bit of material, detailed accounts from People, Town and Country, historical reports from The Guardian, really trying to give you a full picture. Our aim is to cut through some of the noise, clarify what actually happened that night, the aftermath, and of course, her lasting legacy, to really get a sense of this pivotal moment.
Absolutely. And what's so compelling here is how everything just collided. The public fascination, the private sorrow, the media storm. We're not just going to list facts. We want to explore the emotional side of it, too. The royal family's reactions, which were quite surprising in some ways. And the questions that linger even now. You might connect some dots today that you hadn't really thought about before.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's late August 1997. Princess Diana is 36. She's divorced. And it really seemed like she was starting a completely new phase of her life. She was in France, vacationing with Dodi Al Fayed, son of Mohammed Al Fayed, the owner of Harrods.
Right, and this was a really significant time for her. She'd given up Her Royal Highness title, auctioned off those famous dresses for charity. She was signaling a change. The sources show her really embracing this freedom, this new relationship. And those photos, the kiss on the yacht, the jonquil, they weren't just tabloid snaps. They kind of symbolized this very public move into a post-royal life, which of course just intensified the media focus on her.
So this summer trip takes them to Paris on August 30th. They flew in from Sardinia. The plan was short, less than a day before she was due back in London to see her sons. They got in around 3 p.m., made a quick stop at Villa Windsor apparently, and then checked into the Ritz Paris. Also owned by the Al Fayeds, incidentally.
Yeah, and amidst all that, the travel and the plans, there's this really poignant detail. Her last phone call with Prince William and Prince Harry, they were up at Balmoral Castle. Both princes have talked about it since with so much regret. William said he was sort of blasé, wanted to get back to playing. Yeah. And Harry just wished it hadn't been so short. It's just, it really highlights how ordinary moments can become monumental in hindsight.
Absolutely heartbreaking. So later that evening, the paparazzi situation was intense. They'd planned to eat out at a restaurant away from the hotel, but the media presence was just overwhelming. So they changed plans, retreated back to the Imperial Suite at the Ritz for dinner.
Yeah, an employee there apparently described them looking like two love-struck teenagers, just trying to find some privacy, it seems. A brief moment of quiet.
But that quiet didn't last long. After midnight, they decided to leave the Ritz. The destination was Dodi's apartment nearby. And Dodi had this plan to try and ditch the photographers, something like 30 of them waiting outside. 2 decoy cars leaving from the front.
Right, while they slipped out the back. But this is where the plan and everything else went terribly wrong. They left through the rear entrance in a Mercedes S280. The driver was Henri Paul. He was the acting head of security at the Ritz.
Okay, acting head of security, not their regular driver.
Exactly. That's a crucial point. He wasn't a professional chauffeur used to driving them. And much more critically, sources confirmed he'd been seen drinking earlier. 2 measures of Ricard, pastis, while he was waiting.
Oh, wow.
And the autopsy later confirmed it. His blood alcohol level was nearly 3 times the legal limit in France. Plus traces of prescription drugs, antidepressants, and something used to treat alcoholism. It's just a catastrophic decision to have him drive.
Unbelievable. So they leave around 12:20 a.m. and the paparazzi figure out the decoy plan pretty quickly and are right on their tail. Inside the car, only the bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, who ended up being the only survivor, was wearing a seatbelt. Diana and Dodi weren't.
Yeah, another tragic detail. And just 5 minutes later, around 12:25 a.m., the car enters the Pont de l'Anna tunnel. The speed was estimated later at, incredibly high, some reports say, around 121 miles per hour. It spins out of control.
It's the 13th pillar?
The 13th concrete pillar, yes.
Yeah.
Violently. Then it rolls, rebounds into the tunnel wall. A witness nearby, Jerome Lamonnier, described it as just a huge, violent, terrifying crash, followed by the sound of the car horn blaring. Just chilling.
Dodi Al Fayed and the driver, Henri Paul, they died right there at the scene, instantly. But Diana, she was still alive in the wreckage.
Incredibly, yes. A French doctor, Frédéric Mayes, just happened to be driving through the tunnel right after it happened. He was one of the very first people there. He described seeing her on her knees on the floor of the car, head down, struggling to breathe. He knew she needed help urgently.
Just imagine stumbling upon that scene.
And the scene itself was chaotic. Witnesses said paparazzi were still taking photos even then.
Seriously, even after the crash.
That's what the testimony indicated. 7 photographers were actually taken into custody later. It adds this really grim layer to the whole thing.
Yeah.
There was also a firefighter, Xavier Gourmelon, who was there. He later revealed Diana's last words to him. She apparently said, My God, what has happened? He performed CPR, and he initially thought she might make it. Finding out later that she hadn't survived was, as he put it, very upsetting. It really brings home the human tragedy in that tunnel.
So she was extracted from the car, but she went into cardiac arrest then?
Yes, as they were getting around. She arrived at the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital around 2 a.m., and the doctors there worked for hours. Cardiac massage, electric shocks, they even performed emergency thoracic surgery, opened her chest to try and stop internal bleeding, repair a tear in a vein near her heart.
They really tried everything.
Everything. But the internal hemorrhaging was just too severe. They couldn't stop it. And eventually the medical team decided, by common consent, to stop resuscitation efforts.
And Princess Diana was pronounced dead.
Around 4 a.m., August 31st, 1997. She was 36 years old. The news broke soon after, confirmed by the British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook. Immense shockwaves around the world.
Yeah, the world's reaction, how do you even describe it? It was immediate, overwhelming. Grief on a scale rarely seen. Thousands, tens of thousands of people just descended on Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace. Flowers, notes, candles, just mountains of tributes.
Yeah.
That phrase, the People's Princess, it just sort of emerged spontaneously, didn't it? And it stuck. It perfectly captured how people felt connected to her.
It really did. But interestingly, the royal family's initial response felt quite different, at least publicly. They stayed at Balmoral in Scotland. The rationale was to protect William and Harry, give them space away from the media glare.
Right. But behind the scenes, Prince Charles's reaction sounds like it was anything but reserved.
Not at all. According to Tina Brown, who wrote the Diana Chronicles, he was absolutely distraught, apparently fell apart, terrified he'd be blamed for her death. Another account from Christopher Anderson described him as ashen and trembling, letting out a cry of pain, even collapsing into a chair, weeping. It's a very raw image, quite different from his public persona.
That is surprising. And wasn't there something about the plane he insisted on bringing her body back?
Yes, that's another striking detail. He apparently argued strongly against the Queen's initial reservations, insisting they use a royal plane to bring Diana back from Paris. And he flew there himself, with Diana's sisters. Nurses at the hospital reportedly said when he walked into the room where her body was, he looked like he'd been hit in the face, just devastated.
Wow.
And then, the decision to drape her coffin with the royal standard, even though she'd lost the HRH title, that was significant. A real acknowledgement from the monarchy, despite everything.
But the public mood wasn't entirely sympathetic toward the royals initially, was it? There was anger, too.
Definitely. Learning about Henri Paul's condition, the drink, the drugs, that fueled a lot of outrage. People were looking for someone to blame. And then the flag issue at Buckingham Palace blew up.
Yeah.
The fact that the Union flag wasn't flying at half-mast because the Queen wasn't technically in residence.
That became a huge symbol, didn't it?
A massive flashpoint. The tabloids seized on it. Where is our Queen? Where is our flag? It tapped into this feeling that the monarchy was out of touch, unemotional, not sharing the nation's grief.
So the palace had to react.
They really did. The pressure was immense. Eventually, they broke protocol and flew the flag at half-mast. And then the Queen gave that live television address.
Which was very rare for her.
Extremely rare.
Right.
The wording was carefully considered. What I say to you now as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from the heart. That reference to being a grandmother was reportedly suggested by Tony Blair's team, specifically to try and bridge that emotional gap with the public.
Interesting, showing how much pressure they were under.
Immense pressure. And that pressure extended to probably the most difficult decision. Should William and Harry walk behind the coffin? William was 15, Harry just 12.
Such a burden for two grieving boys.
Unimaginable. It was apparently a collective family decision, a lot of back and forth. Prince Philip reportedly told him something like, if you don't walk, you might regret it later.
But Harry's looked back on it differently, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He said very clearly he believes no child should be asked to do that under any circumstances. It just perfectly shows that tension between private grief and public duty they were forced into.
The funeral itself, September 6th. Just monumental. Over 1 million people lining the streets in London.
At least. Some estimates are higher. The procession route was 3.5 miles long. And globally, the audience was estimated at 2 billion people. 2 billion.
Incredible. The city just fell silent. Planes were rerouted. And that moment, the Queen bowing her head as the coffin passed Buckingham Palace.
A truly unprecedented gesture. And inside Westminster Abbey, the emotion was just palpable. Elton John performing Goodbye England's Rose.
That adapted version of Candle in the Wind became an anthem overnight.
It did. And Earl Spencer's eulogy was incredibly powerful too. making that pledge, that Diana's blood family would protect the boys and their upbringing.
And the reaction to that eulogy, applause starting outside and spreading inside the Abbey.
Yes, like a wave, apparently, rolling right up the aisles towards the royal family themselves. Think about that applause inside Westminster Abbey during a royal funeral. Completely unheard of. It was the public making their feelings known, right there.
After the service, she wasn't buried in a public place, was she?
No. She was interred privately at Althorpe, the Spencer family estate, on an island in the middle of the lake. Deliberately chosen for privacy, inaccessible to the public, and significantly, the royal standard was removed from her coffin and replaced with the Spencer family flag for the burial.
A final symbolic separation.
In a way, yes, though the questions didn't end there. Years later, in 2004, there was that huge police inquiry, Operation Paget, looking into all the conspiracy theories.
And Prince Charles was actually questioned as part of that.
He was, because of a note Diana had allegedly written back in 1995. It claimed she feared her husband was planning an accident involving her car, possibly involving brake failure, so he could marry someone else, speculated to be the nanny at the time.
That's quite an allegation.
It's explosive. The police investigated it thoroughly. Charles cooperated fully, and ultimately the inquiry found no evidence to support the conspiracy theories, concluding it was a tragic accident caused by the grossly negligent driving of Henri Paul and the pursuing paparazzi. But the fact that the future king was formally questioned by police over his ex-wife's death, it shows how persistent and dark some of those undercurrents were.
So, looking beyond the investigations, what about her legacy today? It feels as strong as ever, doesn't it? Mainly through her sons.
Absolutely. William and Harry have been very intentional about carrying her work forward. You see it with William's involvement with Centerpoint, the homelessness charity she was so passionate about.
And Harry walking through the landmine fields in Angola.
Exactly.
Yeah.
2022, directly echoing her famous visit in 1997. It was such a powerful visual link to her humanitarian work.
Yeah.
And they both talk about seeing her spirit and the young people recognized by the Diana Award and in their own children too. Even Prince Charles acknowledged it publicly, saying how proud he was of how the boys handled everything with such courage and dignity. Her influence is undeniable, passed down through them.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here. It's such a complex story full of emotion, tragedy, and these surprising twists.
It really is. This deep dive shows how one single event, however tragic, can send ripples through everything, public opinion, institutions like the monarchy, global media. But it also shows how that massive outpouring of grief wasn't just temporary. It seeded a legacy, one that's still actively being shaped by those she left behind.
When you look back at all this, what really stays with you? Is it the image of the princes walking behind the coffin? Is it the almost unbelievable public reaction, the sea of flowers, or maybe the way the royal family was forced to adapt? It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? How public figures, private lives, and historical moments can intersect in ways that keep echoing long after the headlines fade. Something for all of us to think about.